They laughed as they crossed the line, but when she pulled out her CIA badge, their smug grins turned to sheer panic. The midday sun poured over Lake Merritt Park in Oakland, California. Families strolled along the water's edge, children chased after ducks, and joggers maintained a steady rhythm along the paved paths. Among them was Maya, a woman in her mid-30s, seated on a weathered bench under the shade of a sprawling oak tree. She had chosen this spot deliberately, not too secluded, yet quiet enough to enjoy her favorite pastime. A paperback rested in her hands, its pages slightly worn from repeated reads. She seemed entirely at ease, dressed in a breezy summer skirt and a simple white blouse. Her sandals tapped lightly against the ground as she read, occasionally pausing to take in the lively chatter of the park around her. Maya blended into the scene effortlessly, just another face in the crowd. But Maya was anything but ordinary. Beneath her calm exterior lay a mind trained to assess threats, spot inconsistencies, and act decisively. Years of CIA service had sharpened her instincts, though you'd never guess it from her serene demeanor. Today she wasn't here on official business. This was her sanctuary, a rare escape from the demanding life she led. Yet peace can be fleeting. From the corner of her eye, Maya noticed a group of uniformed officers approaching, their laughter carrying through the air. Something about their energy caught her attention. They weren't responding to an emergency or patrolling, they were relaxed, overly so, and their gaze fell on her with a curiosity that set her mind racing. She didn't respond right away. Rather, she noted, as usual. She learned from her training that if you watched long enough, most individuals would reveal themselves. Maya put her book down next to her and folded the corner of the page. The afternoon was about to take an unexpected turn, but she didn't let on. Not yet. A CIA agent never reveals their hand until the time is right. The officers drew closer, their laughter breaking the natural harmony of the park. Maya glanced at them briefly, 3 men in uniform, mid-conversation and clearly at ease. One of them, the tallest, with a sharp jawline and a name badge that read Ark Grayson, tilted his head toward her. His gaze lingered a little too long, and Maya could already tell where this was heading. "Afternoon, ma'am," Grayson said as they stopped in front of her. The tone was polite, but the smirk tugging at his lips betrayed a less than genuine intention. Maya looked up, her expression neutral. "Afternoon, officers. You enjoying the weather?" Another officer chimed in, adjusting his sunglasses as his eyes darted down to her skirt. His attempt at subtlety was laughable, but Maya didn't flinch. "It's nice," she replied simply, her tone betraying nothing. Inside, she was already assessing the situation, their posture, their tone, the way their eyes moved. It all painted a clear picture. This wasn't about community policing. They were bored, looking for amusement, and she'd become their unfortunate target. "You don't see too many folks reading paperbacks these days," Grayson continued, gesturing toward the book beside her. "What's the title?" Maya hesitated. "Just something I've read before," she replied, keeping her voice even. It wasn't a lie, but the vagueness was intentional. She didn't owe them any details, and she wasn't about to offer anything that could shift the dynamic further in their favor. "Mind if we take a look?" the third officer asked, stepping closer. He had a softer demeanor but followed the lead of his companions. Grayson chuckled, his confidence growing with the perceived lack of resistance. Maya leaned back slightly, placing her hands calmly on her lap. "It's just a book," she said, her tone firm but still polite. "Why would you need to see it?" The question caught them off guard. Grayson's smirk faltered for a second, but he recovered quickly. "Just making conversation," he said, though his words carried an edge. "No harm in being friendly, right?" The air felt heavier, the interaction drawing the attention of a few passers-by. Maya remained composed, her breathing steady, her gaze unwavering. This was a test, not just of their intentions, but of her ability to handle the situation without escalating it unnecessarily. But she could sense the moment was coming when her patience might no longer be enough. Grayson stepped forward, leaning just slightly into her space. His smirk was gone now, replaced with a condescending look that made Maya's stomach tighten. She held her ground, her hand still resting calmly in her lap. "So, you from around here?" he asked, his tone bordering on interrogative. Maya simply said, "I don't see how that's relevant." She spoke in a steady, unwavering voice that was firm enough to get some park visitors' attention. The officer with the sunglasses looked at Grayson and laughed quietly. "Relax," Grayson said, his voice dropping into an almost mocking tone. "We're just trying to be friendly." Friendly wasn't the word Maya would have chosen. She'd been trained to spot microaggressions, the subtle shifts in tone, posture, and word choice that revealed someone's true intentions. This wasn't about friendliness. It was a game of control, and Maya had no intention of losing. "Look," Grayson said, his eyes drifting down again, "we're just curious. It's not every day we see someone as composed as you. You carry yourself differently, you know." The implication wasn't lost on her. Maya raised an eyebrow, allowing a moment of silence to stretch between them. Silence often made people uncomfortable, and discomfort revealed cracks in a facade. The officer with the sunglasses stepped closer, clearly emboldened by Grayson's lead. His hand reached out, brushing lightly against the edge of her skirt. It was an action so casual, so quick, that an untrained observer might have missed it. But Maya didn't. "Excuse me," she said, her voice sharp now, cutting through the tension. She stood up slowly, deliberately, forcing the officers to step back. Maya wasn't tall, but the way she carried herself made her presence commanding. "Ma'am, no need to get defensive," the third officer said, raising his hand slightly in mock surrender. "It was just a harmless gesture." "Harmless?" Maya repeated, her tone icy. She took a step forward, her posture calm but unyielding. "Let me make something clear. Touching someone without their permission is never harmless." Grayson opened his mouth to respond, but she didn't give him the chance. "What exactly are you hoping to accomplish here?" she asked, her words cutting through the bravado they'd been carrying. There was a brief pause, an almost imperceptible shift in the atmosphere. The officers weren't laughing anymore. Maya's question hung in the air, and for the first time, it seemed to dawn on them that they'd miscalculated. But they had no idea just how much. The moment hung in intense silence, the officers exchanging uncertain glances. Maya stood her ground, her presence magnetic. She reached for her bag with deliberate movements, pulling out her wallet. Her fingers flicked through it before pulling out an ID, flashing it with precision. "CIA," she said, her voice steady but with an edge that could cut steel. "Special Agent Maya Daniels." The reaction was instantaneous. Grayson's smirk evaporated as his eyes locked onto the badge. The officer with the sunglasses took an involuntary step back, and the third officer's mouth opened slightly as if to speak, but no words came out. The badge gleamed in the sunlight, its presence a stark reminder of the authority they had unknowingly tried to undermine. For a moment, Maya let the weight of her title settle over them, watching as the reality of their actions sank in. "You're out here harassing someone you thought was an easy target," she continued, her voice cold and precise. "You didn't bother to question whether I might be someone who could hold you accountable." I didn't mean any disrespect," Grayson stammered, his earlier confidence crumbling. "Disrespect isn't about intent," Maya shot back. "It's about impact. And your behavior today? That has consequences." The group of park-goers who had been watching from a distance now edged closer, their curiosity turning into something more, a shared sense of witnessing justice unfold. Maya could see it in their faces, a mix of relief, admiration, and a subtle demand for accountability. "I'm not going to report this incident today," Maya said, her words deliberate. "But make no mistake, if I hear about anything like this happening again, there won't be any warnings. You'll answer for it at a level you're not prepared for." The tension in the air was almost palpable. The officers nodded quickly, their arrogance replaced with a fumbling attempt at humility. Maya held their gaze for a few seconds longer before tucking her badge away. She turned to the growing crowd, offering a brief nod of reassurance. "Carry on, folks," she said, her tone softer now. "Everything's under control." As she sat back down, the officers began to disperse, their laughter silenced, their postures tense. But Maya knew this wasn't over, not for them, and not for anyone who had been watching. Because lessons like these don't just end. They echo, shaping perceptions long after the moment has passed. The officers walked away, their stride stiff, their confidence shattered. Maya watched them go without a word, her expression calm but resolute. The moment felt heavier now, with the gathered onlookers exchanging murmurs. For many, it was a rare sight to witness power so decisively and gracefully reclaimed. A woman in her early 40s approached Maya hesitantly, her young daughter trailing behind. "Pardon me," she replied quietly, her voice full with wonder and adoration. "That was a different thing. Do you actually work for the CIA?" Maya stood up to meet the woman's eyes and gave a slight grin. "I am," she said, providing few specifics. "However, this had nothing to do with my work. It has to do with respect, boundaries, and knowing when to defend oneself." The woman nodded, clearly impressed. "I'm glad my daughter saw that," she said, glancing at the young girl who was staring at Maya with wide eyes. "She needs to know it's okay to demand respect." "It's more than okay," Maya said, her tone softening. She crouched slightly, meeting the girl's eye level. "You're stronger than you think, and no one, no matter who they are, has the right to make you feel small." The girl nodded shyly, her mother mouthing a quiet, "Thank you," before walking away. Maya turned to her bench. The park slowly resumed its rhythm, but something had shifted. The officers' behavior had sent ripples through the community, and Maya's response had left an imprint. Later that day, as Maya walked home, she couldn't help but reflect on the moment. Her career had taught her to navigate high-stakes situations, but moments like this carried their own unique weight. They weren't just about her, they were about setting an example, about making people think twice before crossing lines that shouldn't be crossed. The next morning, Maya received a call from her supervisor, who had already heard about the incident. "You handled yourself well," the voice on the other end said, "but you've stirred up some attention. Expect questions." Maya sighed. She wasn't surprised. Moments of truth like this often drew both praise and scrutiny. But she didn't regret a single thing. Her job wasn't just about protecting national security, it was about showing what it meant to stand firm, even when it wasn't convenient. Because in the end, it's not just what you do in the moment. It's the example you leave behind that matters most. That day, Maya did more than just protect herself. They conveyed a more profound message: respect and responsibility go beyond positions, titles, or outward appearances. Not only does our behavior represent who we are, but it also reflects the kind of society we are contributing to. The event was a sobering lesson to those cops that power entails accountability, not entitlement. And for the people in the park who witnessed the exchange, it became a moment of reflection about standing up, speaking out, and the quiet power of composure in the face of disrespect. Maya knew she couldn't change everyone's mindset, but if her actions made even one person think twice before making assumptions, it was worth it. Her life, shaped by challenges and hard-earned victories, had taught her that strength isn't just about what you can do. It's about what you stand for. As she returned to her usual routines, she carried the moment with her, not as a burden, but as a reminder of the power in standing firm and staying true to one's values. And that's the takeaway: respect is a two-way street, and assumptions can be costly. The next time you see someone, take a moment to consider the story you don't know, the strength, the experiences, the boundaries you might be stepping on. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Together we can share more stories that challenge perspectives and inspire change, because every story, no matter how small, has the power to spark a greater movement.